Hi, I'm Veronica and welcome to Jersey City Pilates. In today's class, we're going to work on our feet a little bit and also posture. And you'll need a dish towel and a wall that you can lean against, stand against, or the side of the counter will work just fine. Come to start standing at the top of your mat. And then find a place where you're on your mat. And then just sort of shift your weight back and forth on your feet. You can lift your toes up, you can lift your heels up, whatever feels good. You can sway a little side to side. But then bring your hands onto your ribs and hips. And then take a nice big inhale. So your thumbs are on your bottom ribs and your pinkies on your hips. And then take a nice big inhale. Feel them draw away from one another. You may have a slight arch in your back. And then exhale, feel them draw together. And then one more breath like that, inhale. And then exhale, feel them draw together. And then let your knees be soft here. And on your next breath, you can keep your hands where they are or have them by your side. Feel your pelvic floor start to lift. So think that you are stopping the flow of urine, but you're not squeezing your butt as well. And then take a nice big inhale without moving your ribs away from your hips. Ribs expand laterally, exhale. Feel your pelvic floor engage, and then feel your ribs draw toward your hips just a tiny bit. And then keeping that here, lift your toes up, spread them nice and wide. And then slowly plant them all back down on the floor. Your knees are nice and soft. And then keeping your pelvic floor engaged and your ribs and hips connected, you're gonna come all the way up onto your toes. And then notice just where your weight wants to be. Don't worry about shifting it one way or the other. And then slowly come back down, but think that someone's holding the top of your head up, so you're growing tall even as you lengthen all the way back down. And then again, come all the way up onto your toes. And then keeping your pelvic floor engaged, ribs drawn toward your hips, lower all the way down. And then come to one end of your mat. We're traveling a little today. And then just look down at your feet and take a couple of steps and just notice where your weight wants to go. And then you're gonna walk backwards, same thing, looking, noticing if your weight wants to go in or out. One more time to the front of your mat. And maybe you don't put weight into your big toes, maybe you put all your weight into your big toes and you have no weight on the back of your feet. And then just come back to the center of your mat. And then press your big toes into the floor, and then you're gonna come up again onto your toes. And then feel the weight even more into the big toe side of your foot. And then start to spread it evenly over into your pinky toes, and then back in. So you're sort of pronating and supinating a little bit here on your heels. And only have your heels lifted as high as is comfortable for you. And then find that neutral spot where your knees are a little soft. Your weight is evenly spread amongst your toes. Back of your skull lifts, neck is nice and long, and then float yourself all the way back down, one vertebrae at a time, one heel at a time, and then last time, come all the way up onto your toes. Feel your ankles press forward. Hips are drawn up towards your ribs, so you're not arching your back, and then all the way back down, nice and slowly. Heels just hover off the floor, and then let them gently lower all the way back down. And then from here, you're gonna grab your towel and fold it long ways so that you get a nice little long piece, and then place it underneath the base of your skull. And then let the towel kind of lift the back of your skull a little. And then right now, I just realized my ribs are popping out, so draw your ribs down towards your hips. Soften your knees, and then you're gonna send your sitting bones and tailbone back behind you and hinge forward at the front or at your hips. Your knees are bent. And then from here, press the back of your head into your towel and then stack your spine, stand all the way back up. You're gonna hinge at your hips. Knees are nice and bent. Checking on your feet, noticing where your weight wants to go. Be more like this, hinge forward. And turn all the way back up. This last one, we're gonna go down and hold. Feel your abdominals draw away from the floor. Your ribs and hips are connected, so you're not rounding your back or arching it. You're in a nice long line. And then let your arms come down towards the floor, and then round your head all the way down. Pull your towel apart, feel your shoulder blades spread on your back, or flatten rather, and then draw your abdominals away from your thighs slightly, ribs toward your hips, and draw yourself all the way up, one vertebrae at a time, and then stack your spine all the way back up. We're gonna do that same thing one more time. So bring your towel back behind your head, crown of your head lifts, back of your skull lifts, ribs are drawn in toward your hips, and your knees hinge forward. Getting that nice stretch in your hamstrings, and then round yourself all the way forward, pull the towel apart, shake your head yes and shake your head no, just let it be nice and heavy, and then draw yourself up one vertebrae at a time, really drawing your ribs towards your hips. Towel is gently being pulled apart, ribs stacked on top of your hips, and then tuck your tailbone under just a tiny bit at the top, and then float your arms all the way up overhead. Reach up nice and high towards the ceiling, shoulders up towards your ears, and then pull your towel apart slightly, and then come all the way down so you have that space between your ears and your arms. And then side bend up and over towards the right, trying to keep your head nice and square in between your arms. So your head isn't resting on your bicep. And lift all the way back up and over. And really think about going up and over. And then breathing into the ribs on the side of your rib cage that is lifted, one more time to each side. Thinking that your breath is gonna stretch all those little intercostal muscles between your ribs apart. And then pull your shoulders back slightly. And then rotate your bottom arm under just a little bit. And then come all the way back up and over to the left for the last time. Arms are straight. Making sure you're kind of stuck between two panes of glass here. And then come all the way back up. And then lower your arms and drop your towel. Standing nice and square with your mat or with whatever. You're gonna have your hands onto your hips. And then lift your toes up, plant them down. And then let your knees be nice and soft. And then sit back as though you're going to sit onto an imaginary chair, looking at your feet a little bit, but with your neck nice and long as much as you can. Just making sure where your weight is in your feet. And then from here, you're gonna press up through the heels a little bit more than the toes, and then come all the way to the top. And then again, standing up nice and tall, hinge at the hip, bend at the knee. You can bring your arms forward if you need. Ribs are connected towards your hips so that you're not rounding through the low back. And then press through your heels and stand all the way back up. We're gonna do two more nice and slowly. The purpose of this is not to do a bunch of squats, but to see how your ankles, your knees, and your hips are all kind of hinging in different directions to get you all the way down. This time here, you're gonna stay. Draw your ribs towards your hips, lengthen through the low back, press through the feet, and then stand all the way back up, stand halfway back up, then come halfway back down. And then here, as you stand up, feel your sitting bones widen a little as you stand, and then widen even more as you come down. 3 more. Thinking about moving through your bones rather than like, oh, this muscle is engaged. And you may start to feel your outer glutes. We're gonna do one more. Halfway down, neck is nice and long. And then stand all the way back up. And then come onto, stand with your mat wide on either side between you. And then you're gonna take your right leg out. Then you're gonna sit down into your left leg, but you're in kind of a small side lunge, side squat, I don't know, position. And then you're gonna stand all the way back up and come over to the other side. Nice and small movement. Your toes should be pointing all the way forward. And when you're coming into your lunge, you want your knee right over your hip, right over your hip. Your hip and knee and ankle and toes all in line. One more time to each side. And as you go back, really think again about hinging through the back, or hinging through the hips. Last time over to the left. And then come up onto your tiptoes. Your weight will shift over towards your left leg, but then you're just gonna float the right leg up and then tap it in towards your left leg and then extend it back out long. Nice and slowly. Again, noticing what your foot is doing, what your posture is doing. Ribs are still connected towards your hips. 3 more. 2. Last one. And then plant that leg all the way down, shift over to the other side. Make sure your feet are more or less in line. And then you're gonna float your left leg up now, and then tap it in toward your right leg. Notice if one side is harder with your balance, if you're shifting your weight on one foot different than the other. Obviously not telling you that there's something wrong if you are, but just helpful to be aware of what your body's doing. 2 more. Last one. With control. Plant that foot down, and then round yourself all the way down, and then sit over a little bit into your left side, stretching out the inner right, or your right inner thigh, and then shift back over to the other side. One more time to each side. And last one. And then come to stand at the back of your mat, lift your arms up overhead, and then roll yourself all the way down, one vertebrae at a time, and walk yourself out into all fours. And then from here, have your hands right underneath your shoulders, your knees under your hips, and then curl your tailbone under, one vertebrae at a time, round yourself up towards the ceiling. Ribs are drawn towards your hips, and then starting with the base of your pelvis, widen your sitting bones, lift your sacrum towards the ceiling, lift your chest looking in front of you. Ribs are still drawn towards your hips, so you're not sinking down into your back, you're lifted up. And then again, tuck your tailbone under, round your spine up towards the ceiling. Drop your head. And then 2 more going at your own pace. Still thinking about having the engagement through the front of your body, whether you're rounding or coming into extension. 1 more time here. And then find yourself in a nice neutral spine. From here, your upper back is gonna stay in your neutral spine, but you're gonna tuck your tailbone under, flatten your back, and then you're gonna arch it. And then you're gonna tuck it under and arch it. And then this time you're gonna widen your sitting bones, lift so that you're in a slight arch, and then hike your right hip up toward your ribs, and then round your spine, keeping that hike, and then come through the center, round your lower spine, hike your left hip up, and then lift it up towards the ceiling into the center. And then reverse. So basically you're doing a little circle. So you're rounding and arching your low back as well as hiking each hip. We're gonna do 1 more time in each direction. Last one. This is a very tiny movement. Just make sure you're not dropping your head. And then lift yourself up so that you're in a nice all fours position. And then extend your right leg back behind you. Float the right leg up so that it's as high as feels comfortable. The back of your thigh is engaged. And then you're gonna tap it down and lift it back up. 3 more times, just like this, lifting and lowering, trying to keep your leg as straight as possible. Now that you can't see me, you're gonna take your right leg, tap it down onto the floor, and you're gonna take your left arm and just bring it onto your abdominals. And then you're in your opposite arm and leg position. Lift your right leg up. Now, as you lift and lower, just pay attention to if your abdominals are pressing into your hand or gently drawing away as you lift and lower. Think about exhaling, keeping that connection, and that your hand draws away, or your abdominals draw away from your hand. Last one. Leave that leg lifted, extend your left arm long, round and bring your knee towards your elbow in underneath you and extend. And then round it under and extend. 4 more. 2 pressing through your whole hand on the right side, your shin and your foot on the left. Extend it all the way along, float it down. Switching sides, so left leg comes back behind you, float it up, and tap it down. Make sure the crown of your head is reaching away from your foot. Neck is nice and long. 2 more. Last one. Tap that leg down, rest your toes on the floor for a moment. Press all the way through your right shin that's on the ground in your left hand. Bring your right hand to your abdominals. Square yourself off, and then lift and lower that left leg. And if you find that your hand on your abdominals is helpful, that's awesome. You can do this in literally any position. And then here, you can also slide your arms down onto your hip. So make sure as you're lifting and lowering, you're extending through the front of the hip rather than dropping it. Last one, keep it lifted, extend the right arm, bend everything underneath you, your knee and hip, or knee and elbow don't need to touch. 4 more. Breathing as you move. 2. Last one. Drop your arm and knee down. Sit back into a child's pose if you'd like for a moment. And then you're going to come back up into all fours. And before we moved just our lower spine, right now we're going to move just our upper spine. So find that connection between your ribs and your hips. And then from here, you're just going to think about lifting your chest. You may not even see me come into extension because it's really tiny for me to feel it. You're going to think about pulling the heels of your hands back towards your hips and your chest lifting through your hands where the base of your bra band would be, or kind of like where the X on a racer back would be, and then come back into neutral. And then again, pulling your chest through your arms, lift. Your gaze can stay down at the floor. Make sure that you're not like this with your neck. It makes breathing really hard. And then come back center. We're gonna do that 2 more times. Just kind of go at your own pace. Exhale. Start to float your chest through. And neutral, last one. Ribs are still connected towards your hips. And central. And sit all the way back onto your heels. Take 1 big inhale here. Feel your ribs expand wide to the sides, and then breathe in between each and every rib. And then exhale and come down onto your stomach. And if you have a wood floor or a floor that your towel will slide on, that's awesome. You can use that. And if not, you can use your towel on your mat. That might slide a little bit better. You're gonna have your hands on the mat, and you're gonna let your nose hover above the mat, hands pressed down, and then your pubic bone and your hip bones are pressing into the mat. Your abdominals are drawn away from the floor. Ribs are connected towards your hips, and your legs are nice and wide. Press down into the mat, and then think about lifting your chest up through the towel. Lower back stays long and lengthen, and then just pull your hands back, and then let the towel slide away as you lower all the way back down. Neck is nice and long. You do not come up very high. When you come up, pause at the top, and then think about lengthening the low back, drawing the abdominals away from the floor a little bit more, finding that connection. Ribs are also closed. And then lengthen yourself all the way away. 2 more. Come up just as high as feels comfortable. And then once you're there, take a second and organize your body. Find that space in your low back, your ribs are connected, your abdominals are drawn in, and then see if you can come up a little bit higher. And lengthen all the way back down. 1 more time. Same thing. Go where it feels good for you. And then find that length in the low back, rib and hip connection, ribs draw towards one another. Maybe you lift a little higher. Also make sure you're really pressing down into the floor. Neck is long, hold here. And then lower all the way down. Bring your hands stacked one on top of the other, and then rest your forehead. Bring your legs nice and wide, and then externally rotate them. And if you are uncomfortable here, you can fold your mat over in half to give your hip bones a little bit more padding. And then bring your heels towards one another, so you're externally rotated, and your feet are flat towards the ceiling. And then upper body is as relaxed as humanly possible, which is hard, I recognize that. Take a big inhale, and then as you exhale, draw your ribs towards your hips, press your pelvis down, and float your thighs up off the floor. Think about reaching the soles of your feet towards the ceiling, and then lower back down. Glue those heels together, squeeze them together, draw your pelvis forward in and up, and today, my thighs are not getting off the mat at all. Whatever, that's fine. My butt is definitely working, as are my legs. One more. Use the heels together, draw your pelvic floor in and up and lift, and lower. 3. Tiny, tiny movement. And if this bothers your low back or anything, just think about the heel squeeze and the pelvic floor engagement. Last one, pause here at the top or at the bottom, whatever is comfortable for you, and then start to squeeze your heels together. So you're doing like little pulses with your pelvic floor and your heels at the same time for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Last one, extend your legs nice and long, and then bring your arms back to the towel. You're gonna come up into a teeny tiny little swan, wherever feels good for you, and you're gonna reach your right arm off left leg and then lower it back down. And then other side, opposite arm, opposite leg, lifting for swimming here. Using the press down into the floor to help support you in your extension. For 4. Bridge draw towards one another and then down to the toe. Last one. Pause here, legs are lowered. Lift yourself up as high as is comfortable in a swan. Neck is nice and long. Float your legs up. And then look, everything all the way down, finding a little bit of length. And then shake your hips from one side to the other to give them a little release. And then come onto your back. Actually, as you come onto your back, find a wall somewhere that you can put your feet flat up against or on top of. So if you have a stable chair instead of a wall, that works. I'm gonna use the edge of this for a moment, and then I'm gonna turn around and use the wall behind me. Okay, so you're just gonna start with my mat so you can see. You're just gonna start with your feet up and just hang out here for a second. Move your ponytail out of the way if you've got one. And then find that space with your low back. Just stop floating off the mat so you're in a nice neutral spine. And then you're going to press your feet into the wall. This is better if they're like flat against something, either flat down or flat up. And then feel your tailbone draw up in between your legs. Your ribs are sliding up towards your hips are sliding up towards your ribs, and your low back is pressing into the mat. And then you're gonna uncurl. And then again, find that scoop. You want to be at a 90-degree angle, so you want space in between you and the wall. This isn't about getting a hamstring stretch. 4 more. 3. 2. Last one. Now keep yourself in this little scoop. And then you're gonna think about having like sand between your ribs, each hip bone, and your pubic bone. So you're gonna pour a little bit of sand into your right hip, and then down into your neutral spine, or in a slight arch, and then over to the left, and then back up into your imprint where your low back is pressing into. So your legs stay stable, and this is just another version of what we did on all fours. It's called pelvic squat. Pause at the top, and then we're gonna do 2 or 3 more now in the other direction. So you're just kind of moving your pelvis around your femurs. Your legs are not doing the work. Your abdominals and pelvis and spine are. And then pause at the top, and then find your neutral pelvis here. And then from here, your feet pressing into the wall. Make sure they're pressing flat into whatever surface they're on. Don't be like me. And then tuck your tailbone under. Peel yourself all the way up, 1 vertebrae at a time, into a bridge. Pressing into your arms and come up as high as is comfortable. Now I'm going to change direction so I can do this properly. Okay. So you're here in your bridge. And then you're gonna articulate yourself down 1 vertebrae at a time. Again, only coming so high that your shoulder blades stay on the mat. And then release yourself all the way down onto the floor. Adjust your feet however you need. You might need to walk them up or down, and we're just going to do 2 more like that, sending your knees over your toes. Everything is in line, and then peel yourself all the way back down. One more time. This time you're going to come up and pause. And the reason why this is nice is you get a little bit extra space to move. I'm not at the moment for some reason. Okay, and then come down halfway. Find yourself in a neutral pelvis. Still feel your heels draw towards your glutes so that you're engaging through the back of the leg. And then you're gonna tuck your tailbone under and then release it into neutral. And then tuck it under and release it into neutral. So here you can really feel and even see the hips drawing up toward your ribs so that it's not just a thought or a sensation, but you're like truly, truly seeing it happen. 2 more. Last one. Pause here. Lift yourself up to wherever is comfortable. You can be in a neutral pelvis or in a scoop. I'm gonna go to a neutral. Place all the weight into your left foot and float your right leg off the wall. And then place it down, alternating from one side to the other. Use your arms to help support you. Shoulder blades and head are also. Okay. 3 more. Last one. And then peel yourself all the way down, 1 vertebrae at a time. And then lengthen your legs long. You can bring your hands behind your head, or you can grab onto your towel. And you're just gonna do a little ab prep here. So you're in a neutral spine and lift your head, neck, shoulders up, and then lower back down. Again, towel or not, your choice. You're away from the floor. You're just sliding your ribs towards your hips, and then lowering down. And here it's nice, you can see your feet. You can check them. Are you going in? Are your feet there? 3 more. Last one, pause at the back. Bring your right knee in, and then extend it long. Bring it in, and extend. 1 more. Shirt isn't choking you like mine currently. Last one, pause with it and rotate up and over towards the right side. And rotate. Everything else stays. Really press into the wall with that left foot or floor. Your rib draws toward your opposite hip. Last one, and extend it long. Switch sides. So bring your right leg in, or sorry, now your left leg, and extend. And bring it in. And extend. Head stays lifted. You're in a nice neutral pelvis here. If you find that this is too much on your low back, then come into that scoop or lower your head, or both. 3 more. 2. Last one, pause with that leg in, and then twist and rotate up and over. And twist and rotate. For 6. If you can, have both shoulder blades off to the mat, that's awesome. If you can't today, also fine. 2. Head presses back into the towel or your hands. Last one. And then extend your legs long, and then lower all the way down. Bring one knee into your chest, and then the other, and gently rock back and forth from one side to the other. And then you can come away from the wall for a bit. And then come onto your knees. You can roll your mat over if you need. And then come all the way up. Grab your towel, and bring your hands behind your head. Actually, sorry, your hands are not behind your head. Your hands are up nice and long. Press down through the knees. Same thing that we did standing. Reach your arms up towards the ceiling, and then find your rib and hip connection. Pull the towel apart slightly. Have your shoulder blades be nice and flat on your spine. And then we're just gonna do a nice side bend here. Just like we did before, really think about going up and over. Notice if your range of motion has changed at all. And the yoga mat's to the center and up and over. He's sad because he's not getting attention. And then back up, over to the right one more time. And up and to the left. Good. And then here, bring your towel in front of you. Bring your right leg in front of you. And then tuck your tailbone under, find that space in your low back, and then feel like your right heel is drawing toward your left knee. Curl your spine, and then round forward, reaching your arms long. But reach from your back, not from your arms. Your shoulder blades are still flat and sort of connected, pulling the towel apart. And then from here, lift your chest up, being connected in the front of your spine. Your chest is forward, getting a stretch through your left thigh. And lower your arms down. Switch sides. Okay, so left knee now, or left heel towards your right knee. Arms are long. Reach forward. Tuck your tailbone under, round forward. Get that stretch through the front of your right quad. And then keep that connection between your ribs and your hips. As you lift all the way up, keep pulling that towel apart. And then lower all the way down. And you're going to come onto your back one more time. Have your towel in your hands and extend your legs long. Pull the towel apart, curl your head, neck, and shoulders up. Shoulder blades, try to have them off the floor. Really connect your ribs towards your hips. Your legs are not doing anything here. They're just gonna hang out on the floor. Take a big inhale and start to pump the arms. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, and exhale. If this is too much on your back, bend your knees, and you're just gonna do your hundreds here. Inhale, and exhale. Inhale, and exhale. Gazes at your toes. Inhale, and exhale. 3 more. Inhale, exhale. Arms are nice and straight. Really pull the towel apart. Inhale. Neck is long. Find the lift of the crown of your head, the back of your skull. And last one. And exhale. And pause here. Keep your towel in your hand. Bend your knees into the up. Bring your knees all the way in towards your chest. Lift your tailbone off the floor. Bring the towel behind your knees. Turn your grip so that your hands are facing you. Let your knees be heavy and your arms are kind of controlling the weight of your towel. We're going to do a mock through here. If this doesn't work with your towel, just bring your hands behind your thighs. Open your shoulders, relax them. Feel them externally rotate. Holding on with your fingers to the towel, press your thighs into the towel, and then lift yourself up. Find the extension in your legs. Towel is supporting your legs, arms are supporting you, so you're in a little weirdo bicep curl here. And then bend your knees slightly, curl your tailbone under, roll all the way back. So you're doing like the world's most controlled rolling like a ball. And then pause in this position with your knees in towards your chest, and then press your thighs into your hands. Ribs are drawn toward your hips. Take your time. Try to move nice and slowly. So you're sort of uncurling your spine and your legs at a pace that feels nice. And then bend your knees. Same thing. Very, very, very controlled rolling like a ball. And then all the way down. Last one. Pause here. Find the lift of your spine. Crown of your head lifts. Legs lift. And extend them long. And then bend your knees, stay lifted. Scoot to the front of your mat if you need. I'm gonna hit my head on the TV stand. Good. Staying in that same position, round your back, round your upper body, and then feel your heels sort of become like magnetized to your hamstrings. And then you're gonna roll back, draw your abdominals in, and then pause at the top. And then roll back, and lift. And if you feel a flat spot as you're rolling, think about drawing your abdominals in even more and that rib to hip connection. So you really want to round your back. 2 more, not going onto your head or neck. Last one. Pause at the top. Hold on to those thighs, that towel with your thighs. Press your thighs into the towel, extend your legs. Lengthen them away from you, lengthen your back in a little hinge a little bit to give yourself some space if you need. And then you're gonna drop your towel and you're gonna extend your arms long and you're gonna smile because you're in a lovely teaser. And if your knees are bent, who cares? It's still a teaser. And then lower yourself all the way down to the floor. Reach your arms up overhead. Legs are long, press your arms down, curl your head, neck, and shoulders up. Pause here, reach through the arms, then roll yourself up to sit tall. You're gonna have your legs bent, planted on the floor or out to the sides. Doesn't matter, find a comfortable position with your legs in front of you when you're seated, and then move your butt out of your way so that you're truly rooted down onto your sitting bones. Bring your towel behind your head. And if this doesn't work for you, bring your hands behind your head. Makes no difference. Think about the towel lifting up the crown of your head through the back of your skull, lengthening through the spine. I'm gonna stay here today because it feels nice-ish. And then stack your spine, one vertebrae on top of the other so you're nice and tall. And then you're just gonna think about rotating your rib cage. Your head will follow your ribs, so your head won't be over here. And then come back to the center, rotate to the other side. Center. 2 more to each side. Just noticing if you get a little bit farther each way, breathing as you go. Feel your ribs and hips connected, and just the ribs are moving. And to the center, last one. And come back to the center. And now I'm gonna plant my feet on the floor. Towel's gonna come out in front of you, pull it apart, and then lift the crown of your head so you're in a nice long line sitting up tall, and then you're gonna lift your ribs towards lift your hips towards your ribs, backwards. And then you're gonna find a hinge. So you're gonna think about falling back, but your low back also has to come with you, just to here, and then you're gonna come all the way back up. And you might find that you sort of like roll over your sitting bones a little, that's fine. Just make sure that you're not arching your back. You want your whole back to come with you. Pulling that towel apart, 2 more. And back up, last one. Come halfway back. Now you're gonna rotate over to the right. Your legs are gonna stay totally still. To the center, and to the left. And to the center, and left. Ribs are drawing in. To the center, last one. And then come all the way up. Drop your towel in front of you and come onto your knees. Actually, you can just come onto your forearm and your knees. And then from here, you're gonna press your hips forward, find yourself in a side plank here. And if this is ever too much, just drop your hips and you can do it from the floor up rather than up down. And then here, you're gonna extend your arm up towards the ceiling. Find the lift of your spine so everything is in a nice long line here. If you also want more support or an in-between amount of support, extend your top leg, doesn't matter. And then think about having a pull through your hips, and you're gonna dip your hips down and lift them up. And dip them down and lift up. 4 more. 3, 2, last one. Pause here. Extend your top leg now, whether or not you had it before, and then reach the top arm overhead. And then lower all the way down and switch sides. So start with your knees just bent in front of you. Your knees and elbows are ish in the same line. And then lift by pressing your hips forward like you're doing a bridge. So find that connection through the back of your legs. Shoulder is right over your elbow. Hand presses down, or in a fist, whatever. And then you're gonna dip the hip down and lift it up. You wanna make sure that your hips are staying square to the front. I like to think that I have someone holding on to my wrist so that that top arm stays nice and long. 4 more. 3, 2. Last one, lift. And then extend the top leg, reach up and overhead. Getting a little bit strong. And then come all the way down. And then come onto all fours. Tuck your toes under, lift yourself up into a downward dog, and then walk yourself up to stand. Soften your knees and peel yourself up one vertebrae at a time. And then you're standing all the way up. We're gonna do planks to end, but we're gonna do them using the wall. So I will do them not with the wall so you can actually see what I'm doing. So you're gonna bring your hands onto the wall and you're gonna stand either straight in line with the wall with your arms long, soft bend so you're not hyperextending, or you're gonna come to stand at like more of a plank position. Whatever works for you, it doesn't matter. Draw your ribs toward your hips, and I will try to be as explanatory, whatever, as possible so you understand if your back is not doing. Good. So ribs are connected toward your hips. You're pressing through your hands and your whole feet. You're gonna draw your right knee without shifting your weight too much into your chest like you're doing a little mountain climber. And then you're gonna reach towards the floor. And then you're gonna alternate sides. So now you're adding in a little bit of a weight transfer challenge, trying to do so as little as possible. And then here, using your abdominals to lift your leg against gravity rather than like everything being against gravity. Keep drawing your ribs towards your hips. You want your hips to stay square as you're lifting that leg. We're gonna do 2 more to each side. Really press into the wall so you can feel your back engaged. Last one. Good. And then you're gonna pause with your with both legs long and underneath you. Have your feet hip distance. And now you're going to come into a push-up. So you're going to bend your elbows down towards the floor. Crown of your head is long. You're gonna come until your forearms, if you can, are all the way on the floor. So you will look like this with your elbows right by the wall. And then press into your hands and then peel your arm off the wall. Your wrist will lift last. Sounds harder than it is. And then press your arms all the way along. Good. So everything stays nice and long. You can really focus on that length through your back and the crown of your head. And then really press away. Lift the elbow, lift the forearm, lift the wrist, press away. Ribs are still drawing towards your hips. You're gonna do 3 more. And if you're like, this is super easy, think more about drawing your ribs towards your hips, your ribs towards one another, your pelvic floor, the connection in the back of your legs, across your shoulder blades, your serratus, underneath your armpits. Like, you can make anything hard. It's great. And then press back away. You can also walk your feet farther away from the floor. Last one. And then press all the way out. Good. And then when your arms are straight, you're gonna come up onto your tiptoes. And then you're gonna come down onto your heels. So you're doing like a weight shift plank. Here I do recommend bringing your feet away from the wall a little bit. Hands are mostly in line with your shoulders. Coming up onto your toes and then floating back in. Ribs are drawing toward your hips. And you're just lowering and lifting. Like we did at the beginning of class. 2 more. Last one. Okay. And then from here, soften your knees. Walk your feet back and then start to walk your hands down the wall until you come to a place, I will use the counter, until you come to a place where you are just about at a 90-degree fold. Your knees are bent. Think about really lifting up the sitting bones, widening them as well, and then pressing the whole hand into the wall. Feel the opening across your back as you press in, and then draw your ribs towards your hips. You still want to stay connected here. Let your head go and then drop one hand towards the floor and then the other. Let your head be nice and heavy here. Weight slightly more into your heels, but make sure it's still into the toe side of your feet as well. Draw your ribs towards your hips. Peel your spine up one vertebrae at a time. Have your head stacked on top of your body. Lift your arms up overhead. Palms face up as you lift up, creating that space in between your ears and your biceps. Rotate your palms externally. Now, as you press down, think about the crown of your head growing nice and long. Press down through your armpits to the underside of your arms. Knees are nice and soft. Let your hands find their place by your side. Soften your knees. Feel your whole foot supporting you. Tuck your tailbone under. Draw your ribs towards your hips. So you may feel like you round slightly when you do that. And then think about lengthening the muscles across the front of your chest. Externally rotate your arms in your shoulders. And then flip your lower arm back around. And then think about lifting the back of your skull and the top of your head. Let's take one big inhale. And then exhale. Let your arms relax a little in your nice, maybe more aligned, taller position. And you're all finished. Thanks. Thank you all.